Hello there. That looks pretty good. Look at that lighting. I need to come in the studio more often. Today, we are gonna talk about nutrition. You know, we spent a lot of time over the past several months here just going over how you can just crush it in the gym, making sure that you know that you are lifting properly, and we spent a lot of time going over that. However, if you aren't prioritizing your nutrition, your training isn't gonna be as optimized. A lot of people though, they think that their training is gonna be a waste if their nutrition isn't on point. And that's not necessarily the case, but you are gonna have an uphill battle. A lot of people as well too seem to think that there is like this 80% rule where 80% of the importance of you accomplishing your goals comes from nutrition and only 20% is allocated towards your training. I'm a big believer that both of them are equally as important. So I've spent a great amount of time on this channel talking about the importance of protein. Haven't talked about it in a while, so we're gonna spend some time today going over how you can increase your protein targets, more specifically when you're on vacation. But just as a refresher, why is protein so important? Well, I can tell you various reasons as to why protein is super helpful when it comes to preserving your lean muscle mass, with hair growth, nail growth, like the importance of protein as you age, with your bone health as well too. There are several reasons, but I think the most important reason that's going to relate to a lot of people is how it can help you achieve your body composition related results. And I'm not talking about just your ability to build muscle. I'm also talking about how it can help optimize your calorie expenditure. So when you're in a diet, when you are in a fat loss phase, having a higher protein diet, you're more likely to not only accomplish your goals, but actually keep the fat off. And the biggest reason for that is because of the high thermic effect of food that protein has. You know, when we consume foods, our bodies have to work to break that down, to absorb it. Your body is burning calories during that process. But during that breakdown process, your body actually has to work even harder to break down protein in comparison to fats and carbohydrates. So that's why when people say, like, if you're trying to lose fat, just eat less calories and you'll lose fat. Well, while that's true for the most part, not all calories are equal, and you're gonna have an uphill battle if you have a lower protein diet in comparison to a high protein diet. Regardless of what your calorie intake is, the individual group who is having a higher protein diet is more likely to burn more body fat because your body is burning more calories during the process of breaking down protein. So from a fat loss perspective, this is often the missing component, is ensuring that you are consuming enough protein. So most people were at a point in time with the amazing information available on the internet where most people know that, most people understand that. So how can we continue to be intentional with our protein intake when we go away on vacation? Now I get it. You know, you're going on vacation for a reason. It's to disrupt your routine. It's to take a break mentally, physically from your overall routine, regardless if it's of your everyday life, your job, maybe your fitness related routine as well too. However, I do recommend that we still try to be a little bit intentional with what we are consuming. And that's not to say that you can't let loose and enjoy yourself, go and have some wine, go and have some desserts, immerse yourself in the culture wherever it is that you're going. However, we still need to try to be a bit mindful of what we are consuming. Otherwise, if we just go all out and we aren't even mindful of what we are consuming for like 7 days or whatever the timeline is that we are gone, most of the time, and I imagine you've experienced this because I certainly have, when we get back from our vacation, we feel guilty. We have a hard time getting back into our routine because we disrupted the routine so severely that it takes a bit of time to get back into the swing of things. So while I am all for enjoying yourself on vacation, re-energizing and letting loose, I do find that for the majority of my clients who try to still implement what I like to call non-negotiable habits for themselves, they have an easier time to get back into the routine when they get back. But as well too, they still feel like they enjoyed themselves, but they didn't go too overboard to the point where they feel shitty afterwards, they feel lethargic, or just guilt settles in. So with these non-negotiable habits, they can be things like something as simple as including a sufficient amount of protein in your diet, maybe doing one form of exercise while you're gone. Depending where you go, maybe you just walk around the entire city. That right there, in my opinion, would be a way for you to still get in an adequate amount of exercise and activity while you are gone. So let's talk about if including protein and maintaining your protein intake while you're gone is a non-negotiable goal for you. How can you accomplish this? You know, if you're tracking your macronutrients, depending on your goals, maybe you want to take a break from tracking your macros. And I see no issues with that. But if you still want to try to include a sufficient amount of protein in your diet, we still need to try to have options available. So maybe you do take a break from tracking your macros while you're on vacation. And that's okay. But let's see what we can do to still have a good amount of protein in your diet while you are gone. And what I find to be helpful is to still bring some protein options with you when you travel. So head over to your local supplement store, stock up on some high protein snacks. Like, they have some amazing options nowadays. They have like protein cookies, they have protein water, which is pretty helpful if you need to just butch up your protein intake. My favorite things are things like protein popcorn. Like in a serving of this, it's not super high, but in 28 grams, there's 6 grams of protein in this bad boy. Maybe bring this with you and you can snack on it while you're walking around versus, you know, having a donut instead. This still tastes pretty good. You can get things like protein chips. Like, I don't know if you guys have tried the Quest chips yet, but these are amazing. They taste pretty good. So like in a bag, there's only 5 carbs and there's 19 grams of protein. So if you don't want to bring a bunch of snacks and food with you, depending on where you're going, then at least bring some protein powder. Pack a tub of protein powder with you. This is going to be so helpful with ensuring that you're still getting in some protein while you're gone. Start off your day by having 1 scoop of protein powder. Maybe have another scoop before you go out for lunch, and then maybe have another scoop before you go out for dinner. That right there is going to be roughly 90 grams of protein. Guaranteed you're not going to feel as hungry as you may have if you didn't have an additional 90 grams of protein with you prior to you going and eating out. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of work to a lot of people, but you have to manage your expectations. And hey, you know what? Maybe you're okay with not getting back into your routine right away and it taking a little bit longer. That's okay. You know, if you're okay with the trade-off of that, you can completely disregard this video. But if you still want to try and stay within your routine and hold yourself a little bit accountable while you are gone, make the effort to pack your protein powder and have 2 to 3 scoops throughout the day. You know, something that's going to be very helpful with that, especially if you go somewhere where there's amazing, hyper palatable food everywhere, it can be very easy to overconsume on items like that. Whereas if you take the time to have like maybe a scoop of protein powder before you go out for dinner, you're less likely to overconsume those hyper palatable foods. Maybe you get a big dessert, and if you didn't have protein powder, you would eat the whole thing. If you do have protein powder before, you may reduce your risk where you only have half of it because you're just physically full. Protein takes longer to digest in your system. Let it help you with just reducing that risk of over-consuming calories while you're on vacation. I actually went to Amsterdam this past year, and I was in the middle of a bodybuilding prep, and I wanted to enjoy myself. I've never been to Europe before. I wanted to enjoy some of the amazing food in Amsterdam. If anybody's been there before, holy cow, stroop waffles are my jam. Absolutely delicious. Me and my husband, we went all out. We enjoyed ourselves. We had lots of pizza, lots of desserts, lots of amazing foods every single day. However, I still made an effort to pack my protein powder, and every time before we went out for dinner, I'd have a scoop of it. And it was a really helpful way for me to just reduce the risk of overindulging. Believe me, I still indulge, but when you go away and you're still wanting to maintain some of your habits, you have to find a balance between indulging but not overindulging. And I have found that for me and for a lot of my clients, trying to consume some protein while you're gone is a helpful way to accomplish that goal. So make that effort, still be mindful of your protein consumption. You don't need to enter it into your macronutrient tracking app if you need to take a break from tracking your macros. You can kind of keep track of it in your head, where we know roughly a scoop of protein is around 30 grams of protein. Have that 2 to 3 times during the day. It's really going to help just reduce that risk of over-consuming calories, so that way you can still indulge and enjoy yourself, but not overindulge and not let guilt settle in when you get back from your trip.